Welcome to the Love Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon. You may know me from Project Love, where we focus on operational excellence, but here we go deeper. We're your go-to for raw, empowering conversations on entrepreneurship and stepping into your CEO role with love and confidence. Each week, we'll explore everything from mindset shifts, leadership, optimal wellness, to efficient systems, all within a community of visionary women like you. Ready to get real about building a business and life you love? Hit subscribe and let's start this transformative journey together. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Kelsey Acres. Kelsey is a mindset coach for women entrepreneurs, business owners, and founders. She helps her community and clients overcome limiting beliefs and heal from harmful programming from their past, focusing or causing fear, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and self-sabotage, all things that we all experience, so that they can reach a higher level of success, income, and impact in their business while taking care of their personal wellness, which is absolutely needed. So welcome, Kelsey. I'm so incredibly honored for you to join me today on the show. I'm so excited to dive into your journey and your expertise. But before we dive into that, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about you personally.
Of course. Thanks for the lovely intro, Jessica. As mentioned, I'm Kelsey. And anytime I say I'm Kelsey, I dive right into what I do. I say I'm a mindset coach. And isn't that so interesting how we're just so drawn to sharing about what we do to make money instead of what we like or what we're interested in, which we can absolutely talk about because it has to do with our subconscious programming. But let's give it a different try. So I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, grew up and spent most of my life about 35 minutes from the city. And outside of my work, I love spending time outdoors, walking or riding around the Vancouver seawall. I love cooking and trying new recipes. I'm a sister. I spend lots of time chatting with my sister. I think we could talk 24 hours a day and never run out of things to chat about. I love spending time with my family, both my family and my partner's family. I'm a big dog person. I worked with animals for over 5 years in my early 20s. I'm a huge hockey fan. I love playing on rec sports team with my friends. I love traveling, whether that's, backpacking for weeks or months somewhere else in the world, or just having a nice relaxing weekend away on Vancouver Island or my family cabin a few hours away. And that's about me personally, outside of my work and how I earn money.
Amazing. I would have never guessed hockey.
Yeah, I played hockey for 7 years. I started in grade 4 and played until, about grade 10.
Wow. I'd love to see that in person.
Oh, I can take pictures. I love and all of the big hockey gear with my little face inside.
I know, you're just such a sweet person. I can't picture you being like, let's go.
Yeah, I wasn't the most aggressive hockey player. I played defense, so.
Okay. I can see that now. All right, so let's dive into this personal evolution of you becoming an entrepreneur, having your own business and supporting others. But what was that journey that led you to becoming a mindset and coach for entrepreneurs?
Yeah. And I love the question. I love this type of question when I get asked on a podcast, because I learned about mindset coaching from a podcast conversation just like this one. And at the time I was working for a municipal government. I was doing digital communications and social media. And I heard this conversation on a podcast just as I was driving, and it was all about neuro-linguistic programming, which we can get into later. Just this whole idea about how your mindset and what is inside your mind has such an impact on your day-to-day life and the results you get in your life. And I ended up being so shocked that I had first heard all of this valuable information in my 20s, when I could have had such a better understanding of the world and myself at a younger age. But anyways, I got very interested. I started researching. I started learning. I'm a big hyperfixation person. And at this time, this became my hyperfixation. And I ended up signing up to get certified in, coaching, neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnotherapy. It was just so top of mind. And I thought, how amazing that, I have the opportunity to learn, implement these things in my own life, and just be a better person, and then also help other people do that, and then also earn money by doing that. I thought it was just like a win, 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 win. So I ended up getting certified in 2021. And then I did the big, scary step of switching careers in my mid-20s, which was very scary, but very worth it, of course. And at the beginning, I got to work with very many different types of people. In, I think, the first few months of coaching, I was working with a 20-year-old and then also a 75-year-old and everywhere in between. And the topics I was working with clients on were everywhere, like across the map: relationships, health and well-being, business, money, you kind of name it. And it was really cool to spend all of that time, trying it all out and also truly helping people with their stuff. And as time went on, I still, really loved working one-on-one with people on their issues, but certain areas weren't resonating as much anymore. And I did some reflection and recognized, what got me actually like really excited to jump on a call with someone, what got me really excited to work on a challenge or work on a goal. And it was a resounding women starting their own businesses, running their own businesses to break out of, corporations and capitalism to support themselves and their loved ones. That gets me so, so excited. And I also recognized that a lot of help was needed in that area, both from my own experience and just, conversations I've had. So now here I am helping those wonderful people.
That's amazing. Absolutely. Yes, it is needed. So much comes out when you start your own business. That is a whole path of uncomfortableness. So there's lots of things that do come out that you need to heal and work through. So just having somebody that is guiding you through that makes a world of difference, because it can be so lonesome when you're trying to figure out what is going on within you. You know what I mean? But you have no help to be able to do so. It's like the wild, wild west, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
Very, very confusing, very frustrating, isolating, like you said. And it's just stuff we're not taught. We're not taught how to deal with these things. So
no,
why would we know how, right?
Exactly. Oh, they really need to think through the education system.
They sure do. They sure do. I could go on a rant.
Now, what were some key experiences in your life that shaped your understanding of the challenges women face in business? Maybe it's your own personal experience starting your own business and, navigating all the things that come along with that are not necessarily your zone of genius.
Yeah, absolutely. My own experience going through the process of becoming a woman entrepreneur. And honestly, nearly all of the conversations I have with my fellow entrepreneurs, it is hard. It is very challenging to go from, we're studying from someone else. We are working for someone else's company or someone else's mission. And then to go into creating something from your own mind, and not only creating it, but then like asking other people to pay you and hand their earned money for what you have to offer. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. But the challenge comes, or I guess the challenge becomes the relationship you have with yourself and just the beliefs you have about yourself and the world around you, because now you are selling yourself. You're selling what you created, what came from your mind. And that adds an entirely new aspect to just operating in the world of business. And I think, you asked key experiences. I think just like admitting that I wanted to be an entrepreneur was a big thing for me, because I was, quote unquote, giving up or walking away from my past education, my career up until that point. And I was very, very concerned of what others thought of me. And I still dabble with that, don't we all? But for the most part, I've, overcome it through this experience of actually getting up and doing it. But I think being seen as something so different from what others knew of me or expected me to continue to show up as was very scary. And I now know that that is because it has everything to do with my identity. Everything is so, so tied to our identity and what comes after I am. And I would say that that's a big key one. And I think other key experiences is just like coaching with clients, and then also the relationships I've built with other women in business for themselves, and how much shit comes up for us. It ends up being an entire personal development journey to be in business for yourself, because all of those, insecurities, fears, resistance, it all just like blossoms out of you when you decide to go into business for yourself, whether you want it to or not. Obviously, it would be easier if it didn't.
Yeah.
It does. It does. And that's just a fact of being a human, right? And the more we can learn about it and the more we can access support and access tools to overcome those things and continue to overcome those things, because they're going to keep showing up at every new stage you move through. The acceptance of that is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the work that you do is so important because, I mean, I've learned throughout my journey, but through the experience of others, that starting your business, becoming an entrepreneur and whatnot is like 5% strategy.
Oh, yeah.
It all comes down to the inner work and navigating that whole thing that you probably didn't even know was there underneath the surface that naturally just comes up and implodes in the most fascinating ways. But absolutely, you need to focus on that when you are building a business because it will block you from moving forward. It's like an absolute necessity.
It sure is. And it's interesting too, because, we can have our online presence, we can have, who we are when we show up to a networking event or selling to someone or on a Zoom, just like this. But then there's the whole other part of ourselves that happens or comes out or is, even comfortable existing when we're just by ourselves. When you like hear your alarm and wake up and have to get out of bed and think, okay, here I go again. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm working toward. It's a roller coaster. Some days are fantastic. And some days, like I mentioned to Jessica before we even started recording, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. And that's okay. But I honestly felt like, okay, here we go again. Like, we got to push through. And that's just a reality sometimes. There are many, many other days that I'm like so excited and I have something on the horizon that I'm working on, or something that, it energizes me. And some days we just don't have that. And again, that's just a fact of being a human.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about this identity thing because we kind of touched on it at the beginning as well. As you are stepping into this new role of starting your business and becoming an entrepreneur, you do take on a new identity in a way. And I feel like a lot of people get lost in that process where they solely just identify with what they are doing. You know what I mean? And that's how they lead throughout their life. Like, it's no longer a human first approach. It's more so like, this is who I am as my business in the forefront.
Well, yeah, it's exactly like how we started this podcast. I said, I'm Kelsey, and it's always about what I'm doing. It's always about, productivity. I think we can all relate to just the experience of feeling so tied, like our worth being so tied to what we produce, what we're doing for work. And it's just how we were programmed. It's this society that we live in. We grow up and we go to school, we have to get good grades. Like that is kind of the basis of the education system, is like, while we make friends and while we do learn, right, at the end of the day, in order to get from one grade to the next, you need to pass it, right? So it kind of teaches us that, okay, yeah, all this value along the way that actually builds you up as a person, it matters. But, the more important piece is, do you remember all the things on the tests and all of that, right? And then that even gets more ingrained when we go to like post-secondary, right? Because now either ourselves or our parents are paying like a lot of money for this education, which is fantastic. We're getting all this education, but in order to be qualified or to get that piece of paper, we need to pass the test. We need to prove our worth to be, certified or educated as X, right? Whatever you're studying. And then, we apply to jobs and we have to prove that we know these things in order to work for this company, right? And so it's just a society built on, what you're able to do, how smart you are, and what you can produce has so much to do with your identity and what you are worth or what you can bring to the table and offer others as a person. And that's just like so sad and backwards in comparison to like the actual reality of the world. Or at least, my belief is that like we're just here to have fun and experience love and joy with other people who, support that and enjoy that with us. And yeah, sadly, we are in the midst of a lot of the opposite. And it's just about kind of navigating how we can start to shift how we see ourselves existing in this society. And that's a piece of why I love working with other women entrepreneurs, is because I have decided I don't want to, fall into that narrative. And I think you and a lot of other people listening would relate to, a big reason why they started their business and why they went into work for themselves is because they didn't want to subscribe to that anymore, or they wanted to, kind of make their own decisions, have, their own schedule to a degree, right? And, just create a life that is outside of that constant hustle and productivity that we grew up in.
I absolutely agree. Now, reflecting on your journey building your business and dabbling in all the areas that come along with it, what have been your top 3 lessons you've learned that really stick out, that really made their mark, whether that's good or bad?
I think doing things like way, 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 way before you believe you're ready. And this can be so uncomfortable, especially for my fellow ladies who really need to have everything put together and ready before they, take something public or talk about what they're trying to accomplish or go for it. No one I've literally ever met has actually everything figured out. And I'm sure you would agree, Jessica, everyone is kind of flying by the seat of their pants and figuring it out along the way, trying new things, experimenting and failing a lot and learning from those failures. And I think just reminding yourself, like, no one knows what they're doing. Even though your mind is convincing you that everyone has it figured out but you, just like trying and doing things way before you think you're ready, because pretty much everyone is in the same boat. That is a huge lesson that I'll say I've learned, but I'm also continuing to learn and teach myself. Because again, our mind can play those fun tricks on us that tells us, everyone's way ahead of you. So that's a big one. Another lesson I think is get help if you need it, and probably before you think you need it, right? Invest in help, because if anyone is anything like me, they know how to provide their service, or maybe for someone else, they know exactly how to make their product, whatever it is, the reason they got into business, right? But likely you didn't know, or you don't know how to build and operate every facet of a business. I know I sure don't. And finding someone who does know what to do, paying them, right, to either teach you or do it for you, or direct you to free or low cost resources to support you, depending on, how much you can invest at the time, is something you should do as soon as possible. And while this is another lesson I am sharing, it is also one that I'm still learning along the way. And that's, again, just being a human and living life, right? And the third one, I would say, like, make friends who are doing similar things to you. Make friends who also understand the joys and the pains of entrepreneurship, who you can call or text when you need to vent or ask a question or get support, or just be like, is this a good idea? I don't know. I need validation outside of myself today. That has been the most validating thing for me, is to have those relationships where I'm like fully seen, fully understood. Because, like, as much as we love our loved ones and our family members, the ones here to support us, unless they're also in business for themselves, it's really hard to fully grasp and understand how it feels. And in those moments that me and my fellow entrepreneurs understand you, like, need to be understood and validated, it's so helpful to have those important relationships as you navigate your entrepreneurship journey.
Absolutely. Those are amazing lessons, and we're all there with you. Those are things that are continuous learning opportunities for us. But let's dive into the expertise now. So
Yeah,
mindset is used often.
it
So
sure
can you
is.
explain exactly what it means in the context of entrepreneurship and its impact on the performance as well of us in our business?
For sure, yeah. And mindset is such an umbrella term. Like, what
Mhm.
is mindset? I don't even know. But for me, right? For me, it's the word I use to encompass the subconscious mind. So your mind is made up of two parts, the subconscious and the conscious. And your conscious, you're probably a lot more familiar of, right? These are our ongoing thoughts, our decision making, learning, the analytical mind. That's only 5% of your mind. It's a very small amount. And the rest of your mind is made up of your subconscious mind. So 95%. It's really running the show. Okay.
5% is very busy.
It sure is. And that's why it's kind of like newsflash. Like it's really shocking information to learn like, oh wow, this like cognizant part of me that I think is my entire being is only 5%. Like that's shocking, right? So your subconscious is made up of a lot of pieces I call programs. So this is your identity, your beliefs about literally everything, yourself, the world, your values and your morals, your habits, your memories, your emotions, and your feelings. And without actually recognizing it consciously, it's driving our actions, our thoughts, our behaviors, that all of those things added together ultimately lead to the results and like the reality that we live in, or at least that we live in our own minds, because everyone's is different, which is another huge lesson to learn is everyone's living in their own reality. That's why, arguments happen. That's why differences of opinions happen. It's because it's all informed by the programs we have in our subconscious minds. And those are all very unique and individual to us. And those programs were actually not chosen by you, to our dismay, because like they were all formed from the time you were born to about age 7. You didn't have a conscious mind, right? You were like a sponge. That's why we had such an imagination when we were that young. And everything in your life that you saw, heard, learned, and experienced, those became your subconscious programs that have been driving your entire life. So this could be from caregivers, your parents, coaches, friends, the TV shows you watch, the movies you watch, the books you read. Though you didn't have the ability to question like, oh, well, that's not real, right? That's why dreams were so scary. That's why it was so scary to watch a movie, is because you actually thought it was happening to you in your body and in your mind. So all of those things, they created now your vision of the world, your subconscious programs. And its impact on business performance, it really comes from your subconscious mind's ability to alter your perception. And this is done through a process happening inside your mind every second of every waking moment. And it's run by something called your reticular activating system. And so this system is done to protect you from combusting from too much sensory overload, right? Because every single waking second, we have our 5 senses and they're intaking all of this information from around us, which a lot of the time doesn't happen consciously. Because again, if we had to process everything that was happening as we walk down the street, the car, the bird, the sky, the trees, the conversation happening, like it would just be too much for us. So this system comes into play to just like protect us, basically. But it's very smart and it uses your subconscious programs to show you, okay, in Kelsey's surroundings right now, what I'm intaking from all of my senses, what's the most important to her? Because obviously that's what she wants to see more of, right? So it takes those subconscious programs, my identity, my beliefs, my thoughts, my feelings, my memories, right? Maybe I repeated myself. The list goes on, right? There's all of these aspects. And what it does is it shows you more and more of what you already believe to be true, right? And so if I were looking out at a scene of my life, wherever I might be, And I had, let's take a business example, right? Let's take an example. Maybe in my childhood, I had an ingrained belief that was passed down to me that success doesn't come easily. Okay. This is true for a lot of people in their lives. They have inherited that belief that success doesn't come easily. So even if this person wants to be successful, they're looking out at their, wherever they are, their external reality. And because the subconscious mind knows that they have that belief, they're going to show them more and more examples that that's already true. Even if there are equal or greater examples that success can come easily or success is very possible to achieve. What happens is because they have this negative belief, right? A belief that they don't want to believe, right? Success doesn't come easily. If there's something in our awareness in our world, maybe it's an opportunity for success or an opportunity for connection or growth. The reticular activating system in your mind will actually make sure your eyes do not register it. It will make sure you don't have the thought or the idea because those don't match up, right? They contradict one another. It contradicts the information that you already have in your mind. And this system wants to make that more true. So you'll actually not see those opportunities for success. You won't see, or you won't have the ideas for different growth opportunities, collaborations, whatever it is in your business. You'll just be like, damn, this is really hard and I have no ideas. I'm not getting any opportunities. And it's just really reinforcing that belief that success doesn't come easily. And it's like so impactful because we have all of these beliefs that we're not even aware of about our worth, whether or not we're good enough, whether we deserve to have a business, all these beliefs about success and what it means. Money is a whole topic in itself. And so that's where it has such an impact on your business, because whether you are aware of it or not, you have beliefs about money. You have beliefs about your capabilities. You have beliefs about what it means to be a business owner. But those weren't, created from the idea of success and money and business ownership that you desire to have. Those were created when you were a kid from just what you saw and learned about and watched on TV and experienced, right? It's really difficult to navigate because that's why it can be so confusing. Because we might be running into these issues in our business and we're like, okay, but I don't want this. Like I want the opposite, obviously. We want it to be easy. How nice would that be? And we don't know where this like fear or resistance or doubt is coming from. And it's because you have these negative programs in your mind, these negative beliefs that don't align with what you want to experience. And so as you're navigating the world, these opportunities, these ideas, these different, experiences to experience the positive in the direction you want to go, your mind is literally blocking you from them. So that was quite a ramble and a lesson. I hope I put words well to that because it's a whole can of worms, but I think, that's dipping our toe into recognizing, what mindset is, what the subconscious mind is, and how it can really hinder you or also really support you depending on the type of work you can do and the type of improvements you can make as you navigate business ownership.
That definitely broke it down really well, I think. I think it makes it easier for people to kind of understand. Let's talk about NLP because even I am not quite familiar with NLP, but I've heard about it quite a bit. So, can you explain exactly how it works and why it's so effective?
Yeah. So NLP or neuro-linguistic programming is basically a collection of tools and modalities that were designed to help people achieve success and change their thoughts and behaviors and therefore the results that they get in their lives. And the way it works is this collection of tools communicates with the subconscious mind. And the subconscious, remember the breakup between the conscious and the subconscious. So your conscious mind, what we're used to, communicating and experiencing, language, right? The words we speak, numbers, like all of these things that we use to make decisions and analyze and communicate. The subconscious mind, it operates based off of metaphors and symbols and pictures. So very, very different from the conscious mind. And so NLP communicates with that programming language of the subconscious, the symbols, the metaphors, and the pictures, to alter or change those subconscious levels of the mind, your identity, your beliefs, your values and morals, your feelings and emotions, your memories, in order for them to align with the life you want to live in the future. Because again, we are all operating, if we don't intervene, from the programming that we received as children. And so NLP is a tool to use that language that jives with the subconscious to adjust and communicate and make changes into what we actually want to believe, what we actually want to have as our identity, what we need to think and feel, and the habits we need to have in order to get the results we want to get in life. And the way we use it is there are, a collection of techniques that use hypnotic language. And so, say if Jessica and I were doing a NLP technique, we would be face to face, we would be comfy, we would be cozy, relaxed. And I would just ask her before I would ask her to close her eyes, we would obviously get consent that she wants the change we're talking about. And we would have talked in depth about the change she wants to experience, in whether it be her identity, her beliefs, her, thoughts and feelings, right? The habits she has in her day-to-day life. We would have that conversation and make sure we understand, where she is right now and where she wants to be. And then we have a gap, right? We have, the change we know we need to have to support where she wants to go in the future. Then there would be consent given, of course. And I would just ask her to close her eyes, and I would choose, based on my training, the technique that would be best suited for the change that she wants to experience. And then I would talk nice and slow and get all, into that hypnotic language. And through the words I would use, her brain would actually go into a lower brainwave state. And we would bypass the thing that is called the critical faculty. And so bypassing this critical faculty allows us access to the subconscious mind. However, we don't always have access, because the critical faculty is kind of like a bodyguard between the conscious and the subconscious. And it's like, nope, this is what I believe. This is my identity. You can't pass. You can't make changes, right? It's kind of like a protection mechanism, right? I want to believe these bad things still for the rest of my life. Don't make changes. Obviously, we want to make changes. So this critical faculty can actually be put to sleep by lowering the brainwave state and speaking in hypnotic language. And so that is a huge tool to be able to say, okay, I'm just going to pick you up and put you over here for a moment. You're safe. You're going to come back and do your important duty. But right now, Kelsey's going to talk to my subconscious mind and make the changes I want. And then you can come back and you won't even remember what used to be in there, because it's going to be different. And then you can, hold the grounds. And so by, removing the critical faculty for a moment and making the changes in the subconscious mind, whether that be a change in the identity, beliefs, habits, right? All of those things we've been talking about. Bring the critical faculty back in. Remember the reticular activating system, right? If you have a new belief or you have a new, identity, what comes after I am, now in your perception, your subconscious mind is going to show you more of what's important to you. And now that that's changed to be aligned with what you want to experience, right? And supportive of your desires, you're going to see that new opportunity. You're going to have that new idea. right? You are going to feel capable and feel, empowered to take these actions, right? In a way that you wouldn't even consciously be able to tell the difference about. It just happens. And so it's a very, very powerful tool to make those changes gently in the subconscious mind and then experience such a shift after.
Wow. Okay. That's probably the most detailed explanation that actually makes sense I've ever gotten. So that's fantastic.
I'm so glad because, man, when I start talking, I just have so much information in my mind, and I'm very hopeful that it all comes across and makes sense in an impactful way. So I'm glad that one landed.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I thought NLP was like a tool, like a technique itself type thing, but like
Yeah, there's many
understanding.
techniques within it. Yes. And
Yeah.
all of them are, catered to specific challenges or specific goals within, this entire realm of mindset work and personal development. So the training has allowed me to have a conversation and recognize, okay, what tool is going to be most beneficial for this specific need, and then be able to go forward with that.
It sounds very similar to RRT in a way. And I mean, there might be some differences and whatnot, but like I've had lots of RRT sessions in the past, and it does the subconscious reprogramming and what's not to like create new pathways in your brain and like help
Yeah,
kind of unblock certain emotional issues. And it's insane, like what it can
really
do.
is. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. NLP and RRT can hold hands. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane. Like, I highly recommend that people definitely connect with you or look into this and investigate it a little bit more to see if it's the right approach for them. But I mean, for me, I had a trauma from like my childhood that every time I remember that memory, I would cry instantly, like
Yeah.
regardless. And one RRT session, done.
Incredible.
Like
Yeah.
it completely unblocked it.
These tools are so powerful. And it's unfortunate that, again, we learned about these things in our adult life after, experiencing, you know, being triggered and experiencing
Mhm.
hard things, right? I just wish it was more mainstream. And that's why I love talking about what I do, is because I want more people to know it exists and know that it's available to them, if they're comfortable trying it.
Yeah, there's a solution out there.
Sure is. There
I love
sure
that.
is.
Now, what are some common mindset hurdles that you see as common themes in your conversations with female women entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's so interesting because there's an overwhelming, common 4 to 5 limiting beliefs or mindset issues that come up with most entrepreneurs. And I don't know if it's limited to a specific gender identity. I think this is most people, in, their navigation of entrepreneurship and, supporting themselves, earning money for themselves. But it would definitely come down to, I am not good enough, or I am not enough. I am not worthy. I am not capable. I don't deserve this. Who am I to own a successful business? Like that imposter syndrome. And I would say a lot about the relationship with money and the level of money someone is used to having or earning. And notice that all of these, almost all of them, are I am statements. It has nothing to do with the business activities, right? Instead, it has everything to do with the identity, but the identity impacts the business success, right? As we discussed with the reticular activating system, it alters those thoughts and perceptions and actions. And where it came from, right? A lot of the time it stems from childhood when the subconscious mind was being programmed. And it can be significant or insignificant things. Like it could be a really difficult relationship with a parent. Maybe someone, had a coach or a teacher that told them they would never amount to anything, right? Maybe someone was told they couldn't do something, or they were limited in some way. Or, in my case, something that's impacted my subconscious for sure is that I got bullied and I got left out of friendship circles, right? So that gave me the belief that oh, I'm not, good enough for them, or I'm not worthy of friendship, or, all of these things can have, such an impact on us. Or maybe someone grew up in a family that really struggled with money, all of these things, it's all from past experiences. And, you know, that parent, that coach, or those other kids on the playground, like they're impacting your ability to create and build a business to support you and your loved ones and live the life that you desire. It totally sucks. Right?
It's so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but it is like scientific fact. And the reality is that we're going to repeat our past if we don't get conscious and recognize the limiting beliefs we have and begin to change them into beliefs that support what we do want to experience in life. And as I say that, I also love to add the tidbit that, you know, this parent that gave you bad programs, this teacher that gave you bad programs, whoever gave you bad programs, it's very easy to be like, damn you, right? It's very easy to feel resentful and angry at that person for, you know, now impacting us for a lot of our lives. But what I want everyone to recognize, and what was very helpful to recognize for me, is that those people that passed down those programs to you also received those negative programs from the people before them when they were a child. And they just never got conscious. They were never taught. They never learned how to take control back. And therefore, without them even realizing it, they gave them all to you. And so as I was working through my certification and learning this lesson and having kind of this realization of like what actually happens as we pass things down societally and generationally, is like everyone is literally just doing the best they can and what they think is right, regardless of, you know, who they are. And it's just like a very unfortunate fact of life that all of this negativity and limitation is just passed down through so many generations.
Yeah.
And so I think it just helps you have compassion for people. Like no matter who you interact with, if they're being awful, they likely have a terrible internal world, and they likely had terrible experiences when they were young, and they're just reenacting it. And so I think it has really helped me, at least, have a lot of compassion and understanding just for everyone I interact with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it definitely brings more awareness to it, because you can hold on to a lot of anger and resentment and whatnot towards people. But really, I mean, hurt people, right?
Exactly. And it's not always their fault. As much as it's easy to get angry and blame, it's just an awareness we need to have that it's up to us. It's our responsibility to become conscious of what's scientifically happening inside of our minds, and making changes for the better for us individually, because it really has nothing to do with anyone else, right? You have your own desires for your life, and if you can figure out what inside your subconscious mind is stopping you from that and change it into what is going to support you, that's just beautiful.
I love that. Now, let's talk about some outside of NLP. Is there anything else that we can incorporate into our daily routines or practices that are like tools or techniques or anything like that that can support us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because it's very hard, you know, if you're just listening to this podcast and this is all new information to you, to be like, oh, what are my limiting beliefs, right? How are these things negatively impacting my business, right? It's so just like outside of our perception. And so I won't say, you know, 100% of the time or always, but very, very often, if you are recognizing somewhere in your life you're feeling fear or discomfort or resistance, and maybe let's use the case as, you know, if you're navigating and operating your business, that fear and resistance and discomfort can typically be traced to a limiting belief. And without using NLP, right, because obviously you need a facilitator for that, there is a way you can check to see if it's a limiting belief with two very simple questions. And so, you know, you're feeling this resistance. You can ask yourself, was I born, you know, believing this? Like maybe you're having the belief that like you're not capable of something. So ask yourself, was I born believing this? And then, is this the case for everyone on the planet? Those are two very easy questions to ask yourself that you are likely to get very quick answers to. And if the answer is no, you can rest assured that this is a limiting belief coming up that you picked up along the way. So let's go into a bit more of an example. Say you feel resistance about something in your business. You can ask yourself what it's making you feel, like what feelings are coming up, and ask yourself what you're making it mean. So what does this resistance mean about your business? What does it mean about you, right? Maybe this resistance is coming up as you're trying to introduce a new offering or a product or service, right? You're feeling resistance. Okay, that's the feeling. And what do you make it mean about your business? That your business isn't good enough, that your business is going to flop, right? Or what do you make it mean about you? Whether you're not capable or you're not smart enough, or, what you have to offer isn't what people want. Asking what you're making it mean will help you recognize the actual belief that is coming up. Because it's never just like, oh, well, I'm frustrated, right? If you can ask yourself what it means about you and your business, you will get something along the lines of I am blank, right? It's coming back to that identity piece. And the initial step you can take after asking those two questions and proving to yourself, okay, this is a limiting belief, a bit of an exhale, it's not your fault. The initial step is using a rule of the subconscious mind, because your mind loves proof. It loves hard evidence. So if you have something in your life that proves that limiting belief wrong, which I will tell you right now, you will be able to find it. Find that proof. Find the hard evidence, right? Maybe it's that you are not capable, right? In what other times in your life have you been capable? In what other times in your life have you shown strength and resilience? In what other, maybe you haven't shown that you can actually do this specific task, right? Maybe you haven't launched this specific product or service or offering. So your mind will go, well, I'm not capable of that because I haven't done that exactly before. Okay. Have you always known how to do the things you're trying to do? Every single new thing you've done in your life? No. You've learned, right? You've experimented. You've asked for support. You have seeked out resources. And so you can prove to yourself very quickly that you have done a lot of new things, and these are the things you have shown enabled you to do that new thing. So you're basically going through the process of poking holes in that limiting belief and proving that limiting belief wrong, using proof and hard evidence from your past. And once you do that, remind yourself of it often, have a little phone note, right? A note in your phone or a page in your journal or a sticky note on your wall by your desk. I have done this. Show yourself the hard evidence very often, and you will start to believe differently, because now, in your awareness, as much as your mind wants to convince you of something, you can kind of say, you can kind of call bullshit on it and be like, well, I've actually done this. And so that means I can repeat that. I've proven to myself.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Those are good reminders. And I love that you suggest to look for proof, because there is always proof. And that generally helps.
There's always proof, but it's actually incredible how good of a job our mind does at hiding that proof from us and convincing us otherwise. And that's why it's so frustrating in the moment, because obviously you don't want to sit down and ask yourself these two questions and reflect on the past, but it works. It takes you doing it one time to be like, oh, okay, this actually takes 5 minutes, and it can completely change how I feel about something. And it can, help you take something across the finish line. It can help you reach out to a new opportunity or connection, or do anything to push your business forward. It can take 5 minutes of just that conscious decision to okay, sit down, reflect on this.
I love that. All right. So those that are currently starting their entrepreneurial journey, I'd love to hear just a piece of advice that you have for those that are doing that and they are just trapped in the self-doubt and the fear of stepping into that role.
Yeah, I mean, I was there. So this is a piece of advice for my past self as well. And I'm sure every other person who's started a business, but I would just say that like you are very, very extremely capable of achieving what you want and creating the business you want. And literally anything in your mind or outside your mind telling you otherwise or making you feel those uncomfy feelings is just due to a limiting belief that you picked up somewhere along the journey you've had in your life. And it is possible to be uncovered. It is possible to be worked through and overcome. So you do feel fully capable and worthy of actually creating the business that you've been dreaming of. All of these things can be traced back to hard experiences we've had, and they can all be overcome.
I love that. That's perfect. Now let's talk about what you have available to support your community. So let's hear the goods.
I'll give you the goods if you're asking for them. Yeah, I have a super valuable free course available to anyone who wants it. It's called Ditch Beliefs Hurting Your Business. And it is for anyone who is feeling any type of fear, doubt, resistance that is feeling kind of funky and confusing. It is a video lesson and then a workbook that actually takes you through a little bit of what I've shared already, uncovering, okay, what is the limiting belief that is causing this, discomfort, and then it takes you through the process of questioning belief and proving it wrong. Okay. So a lot of what we've actually talked about this podcast. So if you don't want to like pause and re-listen and go back to find it, just check out this course. I'll send the link to Jessica so she can provide it to you, but it's very, very powerful and it's a tool you can keep and use over and over and over again. And then I also offer single sessions to get a taste of, what it's like to work with me, what coaching is like. And then I also have several one-on-one packages to work longer term with me. And I am also about to launch a free community for women entrepreneurs, and that can all be found on my website, which I will absolutely provide a link for. But the community is for women entrepreneurs who kind of want to balance supporting others, of course, through their business, while supporting their own mindset and well-being. And in the community, you can connect with other entrepreneur friends. Like I said, that is a very important piece of the puzzle. You can share your experiences and vent if you need to, because we all know how meaningful and needed that is sometimes. You can attend free workshops every month and Q&A sessions to receive, personalized support. We're going to have guest speakers to come in and share their expertise that would be, relevant to women entrepreneurs. And you'll learn tools to overcome this fear and resistance that you are literally bound to face in entrepreneurship. And hopefully we can make that a little bit quicker and easier to move through, so we can get back to doing like what we want to do and providing what we want to provide to ultimately support ourselves.
I love that. That's amazing. I can't wait to see the details on your website. I am definitely going to check it out. But for those that do want to connect with you, check out the show notes. All of the details on how to reach Kelsey will be in there. But yes, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your journey. But
this was such a good combo. I really appreciate it.
It was so jam-packed. I know those tuning in are going to have like so many takeaways, and you really just like simplified it. You know what I mean? To be able to digest it from someone who is not an expertise in that area.
Yeah, it's a lot of information overload sometimes. So I'm glad I could be the vehicle to kind of make it a little bit less overwhelming and more actionable, because that's the most important part, is how we can intake this information and actually put it into action in a way that feels doable.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you for joining us today. Your presence truly elevates Love Unplugged into a home for freedom-driven women who aspire to be visionary CEOs. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be honored if you take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us bring more impactful conversations to our community. Let's continue to grow this empowering community together. Until next time.